But that doesn't mean we disparage thousands of hardworking, law-abiding, and peaceful truckers who, quite frankly, have kept all of you alive.
Welcome back to Moose on the Loose. My name's David, and today's top stories, we've got free speech is under attack. We not only have one of Trudeau's ministers talking about free speech and whether it should be allowed, but we've also got free speech actually being limited in UK. So first off, we got Justin Trudeau's Minister of Health, Mark Holland, here. He's talking about a situation with bots. Just as a quick recap, basically, someone created a bunch of bot accounts that were leaving comments praising Pierre Poilievre's rallies. And Jagmeet Singh is blaming Pierre Poilievre for doing this. It's ridiculous. Why would Pierre Poilievre do this? He's already dominating the polls. He doesn't need bot accounts. It's ridiculous. More likely that Jagmeet created these bot accounts, or Trudeau, trying to stir up a whole bunch of ruckus. But anyways, what's more important here is about Mark Holland talking about free speech afterwards and whether we should be limiting people's speech if it's toxic. Well, who decides if it's toxic?
To follow up on another topic, there's been conversation in recent days about the use of bot farms on social media. I'm just wondering, from your perspective, is that something you're concerned about heading into the next election? And do you think the federal government or the Liberal Party needs to do more to try to combat the prevalence of these bot accounts?
Well, I don't know about you, Rachel, but I mean, you go online. I don't stay very long. It's pretty toxic. And we wouldn't talk to each other on the street like that. And there are certainly forces in the world that are autocratic and seek to undermine democracy, who want to fuel divisions that are between us and get us to talk to each other in incredibly disrespectful and cruel ways. I think whether or not it's a bot or a human, when somebody is speaking without humanity, when somebody is hiding behind, username 12768, and they give you their opinion, and that opinion is toxic and makes people feel bad, then we have to think about as a society why that's allowed. It took us a long time with newspapers.
I'm sorry, who decides if someone's opinion is toxic? This is a slippery slope, Mark Holland. You guys don't like that. The better majority of Canadians here, 60+% of Canadians, are criticizing you guys for your terrible policies and running Canada into the ground. This is outrageous. Just imagine they push through their bill C-63 and their minority report bill. Oh, we don't like what you're saying online. We don't like what you're thinking, what we think you're going to think and say online. We're going to put you in jail for that before you even say it. The Liberals are dangerous with what they're doing, what they want to push forward, and what their mentality and their ideology is. I mean, he's saying it right here. Who decides whose opinion is toxic or not?
To think about as a society why that's allowed. It took us a long time with newspapers and television to figure out, how it worked. And there were some dark forces that used those new mediums in very nefarious ways. And I think we're seeing that here. There's too much toxic negativity. An opinion is fine, but the cruelty with which it's being unleashed should be rejected.
It's only toxic if it's against the Liberals, right, Mark? Is that how it works? These guys are outrageous. They're ruining our country, and then they don't like that Canadians are voicing our opinions on how bad they are. That's what's going on.
We have to be very circumspect, unfortunately, about what we see online. There are forces that are running these bots and trying to overwhelm the internet to give an appearance of a particular opinion or a consensus around something that simply isn't true, and at worst is
something that isn't true. Basically, the bots were saying, oh, I love Pierre Poilievre's rally in the North. It was so great. It is true. If you look at his rallies in the North, the rooms were packed. They're filled. These guys are losing, and they're poopy pants losers. They don't like that they're losing. They're just getting crushed. They're terrible at what they do. None of them should be employed in the government doing what they're doing.
Seeking to undermine our democracy.
I'm sure you've seen in the States quite the turnaround the Democrats have had. They made a major change at the top of the ticket, and they've turned their fortunes around significantly. I'm sure you don't want to see the Prime Minister leave, but do you think the Liberal Party needs to make a major change to their program to see a similar turnaround in the fortunes that you have relative to the Democrats have been able to do in the U.S.?
My instinct is we are in very difficult times. These are the most difficult times that humanity has lived through, certainly since the Second World War. People are tired. People came out of the pandemic exhausted, and then they were dealing with Ukraine, and then they're dealing with global inflation, and then they're dealing with in Gaza, and it just seems way too much. And, I get an opportunity to talk with my G7 partners. We're not alone. This phenomenon is absolutely everywhere. What I think we're seeing in different parts of the world is really an ignition of hope again. That, maybe the darkest days aren't all that are left for us. Maybe that there are things that are good in this world. And maybe the time that we're in, as tough as it is an opportunity to make things better than they have been. I had an opportunity for my mom's 80th birthday to be away and be in the Olympics and be able to watch Canadians compete. I had an opportunity to watch a movie that I thought was a good idea to watch with my stepchild called Bring It On. Is from the year 2000. You watch that movie, you want to go back to that, right? Like, you watch that movie, you go, what was wrong with us? So we've come a long way. But look,
this guy, I agree with one thing. There's definitely some dark times, but there is a ray of hope. That's getting rid of you guys. That is the ray of hope. He's completely unhinged.
It's a lot easier to sell fear. It's a lot easier to say, doesn't things suck? Doesn't it feel awful? And just to wallow in that. And that's what Pierre Poilievre offers, an opportunity to wallow in all that's bad and broken.
This guy's so detached. Look in the streets, man. We've never had tent cities in this country, ever. There's not been rows and rows and rows of people living in tents. This is not just using fear. You guys have literally destroyed our country. They won't even acknowledge it. He's just standing here in this dental office. These press conferences are just ridiculous.
And yeah, it's a lot harder to stand up here. It's a lot harder over the last number of years to work with people to say, let's do something totally new. Let's take all of these 9 million people who don't have access to care, and let's fight every single day to make sure they get it. 450,000 people have care.
Let's talk about not the amount of people have care. Let's talk about the treasonous people in our government that you guys haven't named. How about we talk about who gave all that money, who worked with Christian Firth and Arrive Scam, GC Strategies? How about we get some details on that? How about all the other scandals, Eco Green Slush Fund, SNC Lavalin? How about we talk about that?
Today that didn't have before. There is something fundamentally important about that. And instead of Pierre Poilievre, going on about what's broken, what is he going to do about the 9 million people who don't have oral health care? What is he going to do about the cost of diabetes in this country? Diabetes costs this country over $30 billion a year. What's his plan? We have one. What is he going to do about contraceptives for women to make sure that they have access to the reproductive medicines that they need?
Dude, contraceptives. Is this really something that everyone is like wanting? People can buy the contraceptives. They want to use them. They want to use them. That's how it should be. We should keep our own tax dollars. We shouldn't be taxed out the wazoo here. We keep our own money. We spend it on what we want. Mark Holland is so off base on this entire thing, stoking the whole fearmonger thing, doesn't like the toxic comments. Oh, he wants to reduce those because, yeah, he doesn't like being criticized. And this whole rant here, he doesn't even answer the question whether Justin Trudeau needs to step down. And because they're pointing out Kamala Harris, that whole situation apparently is getting more traction. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen Trump going down in the polls and Kamala going up. I don't know if that's just some woke mainstream media garbage as usual, but
they got no plan for that. So I think Canadians are fundamentally fair. And I think what they aren't looking for is a new slogan or, a new twist of phrase. They're looking for people to deliver. And what I and my
twist of phrase, 8 out of 10 Canadians get more money back than they pay in. Remember your carbon tax slogan garbage, which is a lie. It is so rich, man.
Colleagues and the Prime Minister have been doing is every single day working to deliver. And I think today is an incredibly important proof point in that.
He doesn't answer it. He's working to deliver. Trudeau delivers nothing but terrible results in this country. This guy's definitely in Trudeau's back pocket. He will not break.
After 9 years in government, can the Liberals in the next election convince Canadians that they are the party of hope?
I think by demonstrating change, by demonstrating delivering results. I can only speak, I can speak for a lot of areas, but I'll just speak in the areas in which I just did. When I go to the doors, I really believe there are 2 fundamental messages in the next election. The first one is take what you got. Maybe, don't hope for more. If you're a senior, don't hope that you're going to get oral health care or your diabetes medication. That's too much to hope for. Hope is made real by results. And I'll give you an example.
They have lots of results. We have more tents than ever. We've got more taxes than ever. We get lied to by the government more than ever. We have more scandals than ever. We have more of our money being wasted on stupid things given to corrupt contractors, insiders, consultants, complete bullcrap. Yeah, they have a lot of results, bad results for us.
What do you make of the NDP's call to the election commissioner to investigate what's behind the social media post that followed Pierre Poilievre's rally in Kirkland Lake last week? What do you make of that call?
So that's just more bot stuff. It's ridiculous. It's probably it's either these guys or the NDP who did those bots, because why would Pierre Poilievre even waste his time with that? He's already dominating the polls.
You know, the NDP is certainly free to do what they're going to do. I think there's a lot of questions that have to be asked about the forces that Pierre Poilievre is playing with. There does seem to be, at its heart, an interest to light things up, to create more problems and find divisions. I don't know what's going on behind a lot of what's going on there. To be honest with you, I try to stay off social media. What I try to do is wake up in the morning and go, how do I make dental care work? How do I get an agreement on pharmacare? So that's really where I'm going to stay focused. Those are fair and legitimate questions, but probably I don't have really a lot to add more than that on it.
While we're at it here, let's take a look at what Jagmeet said about the bots, and then we're going to jump over and take a look at the British news and what they're doing, and they're suppressing speech badly over there.
It's a concern because it's pretty obvious when you look at the number of messages that were identical and that were shared from people that live in places not just around Canada but around the world. It's starting to raise a lot of questions, and people said, well, this looks pretty sketchy that you've got a whole host of messages like this. And so we're saying, well, the Conservative Party should respond. Was it them? Was it Pierre Poilievre? Is he hiring farm bots to do this type of amplification? Is that what they're doing? Or if it's not, then we need an investigation into where this is coming from. So that's why we're calling tomorrow. We'll be writing a letter to Elections Canada and to the Ethics Commissioner to investigate these bot farms, to investigate where they're coming from, who's responsible, and if it is a Conservative Party, they got to fess up. And if it's not, then we need to get to the bottom of it. Is it a third-party advertiser? Well, that needs to be registered then. Or is it foreign interference? Either way, we need to know what it is. It's quite serious.
This is absolutely ridiculous, Jagmeet. He's raising this to the Ethics Commissioner. You're not going to find out who did that. Like, anyone could have done it. Someone with $100 could just go on one of those Philippine websites, pay for that, and they'll get 10,000 comments or whatever. Anyone could have done that, including you, Jagmeet, or Justin Trudeau. Pierre Poilievre has no reason to do that. Zero. He has the least reason to do that. He's run a campaign on credibility. Why would he do that when he's winning in the polls? Is he checking on the Liberal Party as well? Because that's going to be a doozy. It's not bots, it's angry Canadians. I remember when the Liberals and NDP both assumed Freedom Convoy was funded by Russians. I mean, all those comments were exactly the same, so it was a bot farm. But it could have easily been, any Canadian could have just paid for 1,000 comments and put it in there. Like, anyone could have done that. Why is the opposition NDP attacking everyone except the actual government? Singh is a menace and no one believes him. Surely no one can trust this sneaky Singh who will do anything for Trudeau, include trashing Pierre. Yeah. Sell out Singh. Next up, let's take a look at what's going on in Britain. It's pretty crazy. Next up, we've got a major story going on here. I can't show you guys any of the footage, but I wanted to inform you guys of what's going on in the UK. So basically, there's been 9 kids that had newcomer migrants. They shared a pointy tool with these kids. Those 9 kids are not doing well. There's also 3 little girls who also had pointy tools shared with them that are now laying in the dirt. If you get what I mean here. After those 13 kids went through bad times, a whole bunch of people came out in UK and Birmingham and started protesting against mass immigration. And you're thinking, okay, so, and a bit of protest there. And then the police came out, brought out the dogs. There's all videos on this. If you want to check out my X account, I'm sharing all this stuff. They bring out the police dogs. They're dragging, the dogs are pulling and dragging these protesters around. These are, people who have lived in the UK for a long time. The police are cracking down on this. And then out of nowhere, 300 newcomer migrants came in with all their homemade pointy barbarian tools and started pow-powing all of these anti-mass immigration protesters. And it just goes clip after clip. You've got guys being stepped on into sewer grates. You've got 8 of these guys jumping on people's cars and absolutely dragging people out of their cars and sharing their boots with these people's faces. It is all very crazy what's going on. So I got a couple clips I can show you here that kind of sums it up.
Yeah, back to our top story. And the government will hold an emergency COBRA meeting later after more than 150 people were arrested. This following the violent disorder in the UK towns and cities over the weekend.
In Bolton, anti-immigration protesters were confronted by a group of up to 300 masked people shouting Allahu Akbar, or God is greatest. The time now 6:30.
Yeah.
They call them masked people. They're newcomer migrants. Just call it what it is. They're people who came to Britain. They shouldn't have been allowed in, and now they're wreaking havoc. We got this clip here. I think I can show you guys this one. So the masked bandits, the guys wearing all black, it's very easy to see the migrant newcomers. They show up here when they're doing this news broadcast. The news in the UK is so woke and paid off and broken that they actually have to turn the camera away. You can't make this stuff up.
Community leaders have been speaking to the police as well because...
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
But I think, apologies for the language you're hearing.
So I'll just make this bigger here so you can see these guys. There's a whole bunch of these guys.
But a sense of the anger, I think you can hear there.
Yeah, Katie, I think Becky, I apologise. Becky, will have security there, and we will leave that. And I apologise once again for the language there.
How would you apologize for being woke, broken, corrupt media? Now, continuing this story of the woke, broken, corrupt media, we've got this guy speaking up, and then they cut him off mid-interview here on BBC News. So this guy is the Detective Chief Superintendent of the Metropolitan Police. They cut him off the moment he starts dropping facts that are inconvenient to their narrative.
Taking their responsibility away because it's my colleagues and my family members who are in the front line dealing with this. They're taking the brickbats. What I'm saying is you have to be very careful now with tempers the way they are and people's sense of angst of what had gone on in the preceding couple of days where you'd had an army officer stabbed in the back, the misleading representation in the northwest where this occurred.
That's a different case there, Kevin, so we'll leave it there. That's Kevin Hurley.
They're not. You're missing the point. All of you are missing the point. People conflate this and they make two
I think
and two and they make five.
We're worsening that conflation by mentioning the two cases together here, so we'll leave it there. Thank you. Kevin Hurley, who's the former Detective Chief Superintendent.
Wow. Just cut him right off there. You can see in the bottom too, it's like far right, far right. They just keep trying to plaster this crap all over the media. The BBC is wholly owned and operated by a tool of globalists, as is all mainstream news media. The media doesn't want the people to hear the truth. That's basically it. We've also got another example of that here. So this guy here, this is Martin Sellner, an anti-immigration activist, giving a lecture, and he gets shut down by the police in the middle of it.
Das sind die anstrengendsten Dinge an der Meinungsfreiheit in Deutschland. Das Verbot des Kompaktmagazins, herrlich, wie auf Kommando. Grüß Gott.
Grüß Gott, Herr Sellner, Jan, mein Name, Polizeiführer von...
Wie ist Ihr Name, pardon?
Jan.
Bitte?
Dieses Schreiben ist für Sie.
Ja.
Der Sofortvollzug ist...
So I think they're cheering there to let him stay.
Keine aufschiebende Wirkung.
So there's some funny music that comes in there, but basically, yeah, they get him out of there. They force him to leave and shut down. The world is turning upside down quickly. When you're shut down when talking about censorship, you're no longer living in a free country. That's a great comment there. Things are going downhill quick in the UK. Like, that country is gone. I wouldn't be surprised if most of the citizens are looking to move to another country now, because it's basically being completely taken over. If you want to see all the other clips of stuff that's going on, it doesn't look like this. It looks more like people running through the streets holding pointy homemade tools and a lot of other stuff. So check my X account if you want to check that out. Or if you want to share some clips of your own, you can post it in my Moose on the Loose X account community group. So now we've got a bit of an update here with what's going on in Britain. So if anyone shares posts that the government doesn't like, it is now considered a crime to retweet these posts by simply clicking the button here and reposting it, retweeting it. That is now considered as if that is your speech in Britain, and they will charge you and throw you in jail. How ridiculous is that? The British are run by the absolute biggest boneheads, like just the worst of the worst. with all the Mark Holland and Jagmeet nonsense and the British stuff going on, we've got a little highlight here we've got one of Pierre Poilievre's best moments against legacy media.
What do you make of the extreme elements trying to latch onto the Trump convoy you supported?
Well, you know what I think is interesting is that when there's a left-wing protest on Parliament Hill, we don't see the Liberal media going through every single name of the people who attends to try and find one person that they can disparage the whole group with. You know, we don't see CBC, for example, has been accused by its own employees of systemic racism. And yet we don't see the media here generalize that everyone who works at the CBC is a racist. Whenever you have 5,000 or 10,000 people who are part of any group, you're bound to have a number who have or say unacceptable things. And they should be individually responsible for the things they say and do. But that doesn't mean we disparage the thousands of hardworking, law-abiding, and peaceful truckers who quite frankly have kept all of you alive the last 2 years by filling your grocery shelves with the food that you eat and filling your homes with the products that you rely upon. So I think that it is possible to hold individually responsible anyone who says or does anything unacceptable, while showing support for the hardworking, law-abiding, peace-loving truckers who are fighting for their freedom and their livelihoods, and on whom we have depended for our very existence over the last 2 years.
Checkmate, man. What do they say to that? That is so well said. The whole point of them surviving on their existence depends on the truckers. It's so true. The world does not work without truckers. Truckers are so essential. This is the interview that got me paying attention to Pierre Poilievre. His response was so based, and watching him carefully construct his words is brilliant. Such a breath of fresh air in a smothering liberal Canadian climate. Pierre saved conservative politics in Canada. Jumping over to my group, let's see what memes we got today. 11 hours wait in emergency in Bracebridge, Ontario. That's brutal. Even on that list, it was a couple of days ago, the highest one was like 9 hours and 40 minutes or something. That takes cake. His greatest accomplishment in 9 years, tampons in men's bathrooms. This is pretty funny. Revoke Jagmeet Singh's pension. How many signatures? It's on my group if you want to sign it. This panel identifies as blue. If 2024 was a scented candle. This is an interesting post here. It says 30 years of population change in Europe, 1990 to 2023. So the red here is a drop in population of 35%. And the green here, basically Cyprus, I think is the darkest. Over here a bit, yeah, or mainly Turkey. It's plus 75%. Oh, it says the percentages here. So 56% in Turkey, 71% in Cyprus. And you've got, a lot of these ones, Ukraine, Latvia, Estonia, Bulgaria, Romania. These are all down population. People are moving out of this zone. Gender neutral tampons. Every pain gives a lesson. Every lesson changes a person. For the love of God, get out of our lives. Yeah, no kidding. That's where we wrap up this episode. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought about Mark Holland talking about free speech. He doesn't like the certain toxic comments. Toxic. Who decides? Is it Justin Trudeau? Is it Mark Holland? Is it liberals? They all get to decide what's toxic and what's not, what people can and can't say. I'm sorry, you can't just regulate free speech. It's one thing if you got someone going around saying like, oh, I'm going to do this terrible act or whatever, but free speech is free speech. If someone wants to say, I don't like the liberals, like I'm saying right now, I don't like the liberals. I think they're terrible. The liberals are terrible. Is that toxic? Can I not say that? Is that how we're limiting free speech now in this country? Is that how it's going to happen? Because it sure seems that's what's happening in England. You can't even repost something or they charge you as a crime as if you're the one who wrote that message. It's ridiculous. You can't even share news in the UK. That's how broken that country is, and we're not too far behind them. Let me know what you guys think. Be sure to subscribe to the channel here. We're going to keep fighting for freedom and free speech. I'll see you guys in the next one.